Hi, everyone. There's a lot of common questions I get from leaders, so I thought I'd jump on here and share a little bit about what when I'm talking to those leaders with those questions, how I help them navigate those issues. The first one I get a lot is, how can I be better about being strategic? And I would say that what is a common theme is people overcomplicate strategy. They think it has to be some big, grandiose, strategic plan, or 5 to 10 year, horizon when you're looking at it. So the first thing I would say is, don't overcomplicate it. Especially if you're not normally used to or feeling like you're strategic thinking or strategic planning. Think small, think the next step, and work up from there, but don't overcomplicate your strategy. The key is, you have to have first, know your values, whether it's the values of you as an individual. Those are key to understand, but also the organization. You got to know the values that you are living by, because that gives you a clear sense of the guardrails around your strategy. You have to have a clear vision for what you want your business or your life to look like. I would say, if you're thinking of a strategy around, as a business owner, your business, or as a leader in an organization, start with what you want your life to look like, to build the strategy around that. Meaning, do you want that promotion? Do you want that next level job? How does that impact the vision that you have for your life? Same thing as a business owner. What are the trade-offs for what you want in terms of a strategy for your business? And then it's building a habit. You have to build a habit to give yourself time and space to think about the bigger picture strategy. Again, they don't have to be the 10-year plan. It is, if you're focusing on, increasing revenue, what are some ideas in terms of ways to do that, and how to get to that next step, and thinking of some specific, a small number of priorities that you're going to be working on. Same thing if you're a leader in this organization. Same thing if you want to build a workout routine. You got to start with all these steps. You got to start small, know your values, have a clear vision, build the habit to reflect and think about it. Then also the plan of execution. I've seen this many times. The best strategy in the world is built the most beautiful looking strategic plan, and you get it and put it on the shelf, and nobody does a damn thing with it. You've got to execute, and it doesn't have to be perfect, but you got to have you've got to have a plan to execute that strategy. Another question I get a lot is, around time and time management, and how do I know, how to make the best use of my time. So I think the first thing with that is, you have to know how you're spending your time. I have a lot of people do time audits, so keeping track of their time and what they spend their time on over a week or so, and they can be 15-minute increments or 30-minute increments, something like that. But you got to know where you're spending your time to know how to better use your time, and then figure out what you like doing best. And you don't always, obviously, we always don't get to do just the things we like. But figure out what you like doing best, because that's going to give you a better perspective on how to set up your schedule. So if I like to use like a like, love, hate exercise. So things that you like, okay, things you love doing, things you hate. Do that, do the time audit, do that. Then the next thing is, what are those things on your plate that you can move off your plate, whether you don't need to do them anymore, or there's somebody else on your team, or in some way you can hand them off to on your team, or a contractor or something like that. How do you get those things off your plate that you don't need to be doing, whether it is you don't like doing them, or somebody else could easily do them? So what are those things? And then looking at what's left, prioritize those tasks or those functions in some way. So, a lot of times I'll use a simple 4-box matrix with folks. Like, is it urgent? Is it important? Or does it fall in that quadrant, to be able to prioritize your time? If you go through those steps, you're going to get a better sense of where you're spending your time, where you like spending your time, how you can get things off your plate, and what you should be focusing your time on. Another question I get a lot from leaders is around communication. And this can be way different in different contexts. So that's a broad topic and broad question. But I would say in general, you have to understand the reason for the communication. Why do you need to communicate what you're communicating? Who's the audience that you're communicating to? What do you want that audience to learn or understand? Then a lot of times what I find leaders doing is, if it's some initiative they want to work on or some message to their team, they say it once, and then, a few weeks later, they're not happy because their team, forgot something or didn't remember what they said. You, as a leader, in whatever realm you're a leader, you're going to have to communicate over and over and over again if it's something important, until people know it and feel it. You got to communicate until you're sick of hearing yourself talk about it, is the rule of thumb that I use. So depending on who you are, that can happen pretty fast, or that can take a long time. The other thing with that is understanding your natural style of communication, to try to be one of the leaders that gives big inspirational soapbox talks. And if that is not your personality, don't do that. Do it in a different way. Do it in a quieter way. You can get your message across in a lot of different ways. If you don't do it with your natural style, we can all work and improve on that. But if you don't do it with your natural style, it's going to come across as inauthentic. And again, there's a lot of different contexts for communication. It could be, conversations to a group, email, anything. There's a lot of different contexts. So this is just a few different high-level components. I hope that's helpful. I think it's like I said, it's the questions I get a lot. So hopefully there's a nugget in there to be useful to you in some way. Thanks for tuning in.